Of all the games I grew up with between the Nintendo 64, PlayStation, and GameCube, Pikmin was among one of my top favorites and made a huge impact on me. I'm not sure how I acquired this game, most likely from my amazing parents or someone in my family that knew I played the GameCube and picked it up for the colorful box art. But one day I popped the disc into my system and was infatuated right from the menu. One thing about little Lorelei is that I was notoriously dumb with games. Despite being obsessed with them and spending all of my free time on them, beating any game that wasn't Mario Party was a struggle. Pikmin was no different. I was fully immersed in the game's stunning, lifelike world full of nature and colorful enemies, so much so that I would spend more time walking around, getting into shit unprepared, than actually making valuable progress. Despite loving the game, Pikmin was one of the hardest games of my childhood. I thought this shit was like Dark Souls at 6 years old, spending my 18th day in the Forest of Hope with only 3 ship parts, asking myself when I'll finally get the blue Pikmin as I get my ass whooped by a Bulborb. Everything was intimidating and confusing, yet I was so obsessed with the atmosphere that this game creates. Despite how unsuccessful I was at actually beating the game and getting good at it, I declared it one of my favorite Nintendo titles and have been a fanboy of the series ever since. While everybody was hyped for Sonic and Solid Snake being in Super Smash Bros. Brawl, I lost my everlasting shit when I saw Olimar show up in that trailer. I mean, screaming while jumping up and down in front of the computer levels of joy. Now, I do have a confession to make. Despite declaring Pikmin as one of my favorite series, I've only played the first game. Before you stone me and call me a fake fan, let me explain myself. One of my most wanted games of all time was Pikmin 2. I was a fiend for this game as a child, and for one reason or another, I just never got it. It was always out of reach, as this was before being able to buy games online, and I, of course, didn't have my own money. My parents would give me allowance to get the things I wanted. Every time I actually did come across Pikmin 2 at a store, it was always at the wrong time, where they didn't have the cash to stretch, and, being a Nintendo game, Pikmin 2 was always on the pricier side. As for 3 and 4, I actually took a break from playing video games at around 13 years old, with my last game system being a DSi XL. I spent about 4 years being practically divorced from gaming, and I was not there for both the Wii U and 3DS launches, so Pikmin 3 went totally under my radar. I didn't get my 3DS until 2018, and while I did get the Switch when it was pretty brand new, I spent the first couple years playing only Pokemon, Mario Kart, Animal Crossing, and Zelda. Even though I only experienced one game in the series, I've always held Pikmin close to my heart and considered myself a fan. Olimar continues to be my go-to character in Smash alongside Daisy, and for my 25th birthday this year, I got myself a Pikmin hat and Olimar plushie. Recently, a truckload of nostalgia for the game hit me like a brick, and I yearned to actively experience this adorable little series again. I downloaded Pikmin Bloom on a whim, and it's been helping me want to go outside every once in a while, and I recently bought the Pikmin 1+2 Switch port. Finally, after 19 years, the mythical Pikmin 2 is in my possession, and I've started playing it at the time of this script being written. Spoiler alert, it's already everything I've dreamed about and more. I have 3 and 4 on my wishlist as we speak, and when the time is right, I plan on adding those games to my collection as well. As is the case for these little video love letters I've been doing on this channel, I feel compelled to pour my heart out about the first game in this series, the one that started it all. Whether you're a fellow fan looking to kiki about the game with me or are unfamiliar with Pikmin outside of the memes and want to know a couple fun facts, allow me, Lorelei Celadon, to talk your head off about Pikmin. On August 24th, 2000 at Nintendo Space World, a tech demo for the upcoming GameCube console titled Super Mario 128 was released, showcasing the graphical and performance power of the system with 128 individual Marios appearing and moving on a platform which was also in constant movement, playing around with the physics engine and letting it be known that this new console was going to be a major leap from the Nintendo 64. While Super Mario 128 never materialized into its own game in the franchise, It was the foundation for the creation of Pikmin. Produced by Shigeru Miyamoto and directed by Shigefumi Hino and Masamichi Abe, Pikmin set out to be a unique first-party title for the new GameCube, blending real-time strategy and puzzle gameplay with beautiful art direction, which mixes cute, claymation-like characters with gorgeous photorealistic environments. The game stars Olimar, an adorable elf-like space pilot from the planet Hocotate, who is in the middle of taking a space vacation from his job when his ship, the SS Dolphin, is struck by a meteor. After landing on a mysterious planet, Olimar realizes that 30 of his ship's parts have been scattered across this foreign land from the impact, and the air tank in his spacesuit will only last 30 days. He frantically starts looking for the nearest part for his ship when he discovers a strange extraterrestrial vessel that resembles an onion with a spinning flower on top. Enter the Pikmin, strange, carrot-like creatures who appear to be one of the only docile animals around, and they seem to trust Olimar almost instantly. With a month on the clock and strange allies by his side, Olimar begins his journey to restore the SS Dolphin and return to his home planet. As you explore this whimsical yet intimidating world, Olimar will have inner monologues and write diary entries every night which detail what's on his mind and how he's feeling. The story of Pikmin is short and sweet, and there isn't any dialogue or cutscenes that build up a large, overarching narrative. You need 30 ship parts, you find 30 ship parts, you leave the planet. Pretty simple. The meat and potatoes, so to speak, comes from those aforementioned diary entries that Olimar writes at the end of each in-game day. These entries give the player a look into the protagonist's mind, and will detail things from game mechanic exposition, lore about the Pikmin and creatures of the world, and the emotions that Olimar goes through throughout this unexpected, scary journey. He talks about his anxiety being stuck on this foreign planet, questioning why it is that the Pikmin like him so much and choose to help him, worrying about his family at home, and staring his own mortality in the face as the days continue to pass and he still isn't ready to fly out. You feel connected to Olimar and empathize with him in between the moment-to-moment gameplay, and it adds extra layers of understanding and emotion to the simple storyline. Something that Pikmin does really well is balancing its tone. The game is colorful and whimsical, with the Pikmin by design being silly little creatures that hoop and holler with every interaction that they have. But the game also has an eerie underbelly of real-life danger. It treats Olimar's situation in a very grounded way, and the world is presented to the player as beautiful yet kind of horrifying. Olimar and the Pikmin are the lowest common denominators on the planet. There are 27 creatures that live on this planet which you will encounter as you play the game, and of those 27 creatures, only 5 of them are docile. The breadbug, honeywisp, iridescent flint beetle, mamuta, and wolpole. Everything else in this game will want to kill you and your Pikmin on sight. Now I know what some of you might be thinking. What about the puff stool and the clamps? They don't hurt you when you approach them, they're chill. Which is true, but you kinda have to beat them up if you want all 30 ship parts, so I kinda have to group them in with the others. If I didn't know any better and wanted to be overdramatic on the internet, I'd make the argument that Pikmin has an element of survival horror in its DNA. Limited resources, limited time, puzzles, the ever-present threat of something wanting to kill you around every corner. This is not just a pretty little pocket of nature with critters resembling frogs and ladybugs. This is an alien planet that looks similar enough to Earth, but not quite, filled to the brim with predators who view you as nothing more than breakfast, lunch, and dinner. There is a genuine rush of suspense and anxiety that's always looming over you as you spend 17 minutes within each in-game day trying to get as much done as humanly possible. How many parts can you collect? How many Pikmin can you grow? How many can you keep alive? Can you keep yourself alive? You'll pluck, throw, whistle, and maneuver your way to these answers as the timer goes down and you go from morning to night. This achievement of tone balance wouldn't be as successful if it wasn't for the game's top-tier visuals and soundtrack. Pikmin has a A1 art style that mixes colorful, claymation-like character designs with photorealistic environments that give every in-game area a whimsical twang to them, combining the vibe of real-life nature with dangerous predators and cartoonish adventuring to a T. Enemies are uniquely designed to look like they could exist in the real world somewhere in the wild, but are silly and exaggerated enough to still feel like video game monsters. Each area is beautifully detailed with earthy color palettes that are perfectly saturated to give the game a lively presentation, while also looking like very real places in nature. Despite being a GameCube game from 2001, I believe that these environments hold up beautifully well. Obviously, you can spot the blurrier textures and polygons if you're staring really hard, and character models like Olimar do show their age a bit, but this is still a stunning game if you ask me. The landing site and Forest of Hope radiate a cozy warmth of familiarity despite how foreign everything is surrounding you. Sun-dappled foliage, deliciously wet waters, and soft soils decorated with bright red bulborbs and iridescent flint beetles. The forest navel and distant spring offer a more distant, eerie atmosphere that represents the scarier aspect of Olimar's situation. The dimly lit surroundings in Forest Navel oddly remind me of the first Dark Souls game. I don't know if anyone is going to understand what I'm trying to say by that, but there's just something about the lighting in this area that just makes me think of Dark Souls. The distant spring feels like a piece of liminal space. It's very pretty with its vast waters and mist, but the place feels all too quiet. The accompanying song that plays throughout this level is slow and ambient, up to interpretation on whether or not you find the track relaxing or unsettling. This silent spring is also the birthplace of the Smoky Prog, easily the scariest and most mysterious enemy in the entire game. Something really fascinating about this foreign planet we've crash-landed into is that it appears to be this weird, post-apocalyptic take on Earth. I feel that this is telegraphed more in the second game, with the collectible treasures being real-life objects, but the first game also hints at this possibility, with Olimar referring to the poisonous air that contaminates the planet as oxygen. Whether you have the retrospective knowledge of playing 2 or are only familiar with the first game, imagining Olimar exploring a post-apocalyptic Earth that's completely void of human life makes the already occasional unsettling nature of the game even more prevalent. As for the music, this game's soundtrack is perfectly atmospheric, catchy, and suspenseful. Composed by Hajime Wakai, who has also worked on music for Star Fox and The Legend of Zelda, Pikmin's score combines whimsical melodies of percussion, pianos, and flutes with buzzy, underlying synths to bring out the element of the unknown and prevalent danger. Although Olimar makes it very clear that he's a scared, anxious wreck from the start, it's interesting how the game's music gets progressively less inviting as you make more progress. There's a stark contrast in tone when you compare the music of, say, the landing site and the final trial. Pikmin does something with its score that I absolutely adore, and that's the use of dynamics. There is an altered version of each level's song that plays when you are near an enemy and when the sun is setting. As you might expect, the music becomes more bombastic and suspenseful when dealing with an enemy, and each song lulls into a peaceful hollow when the final countdown is taking place. This element of dynamism keeps the game in constant motion, just like how the in-game clock is always ticking away at the time as you explore. With exploration comes gameplay. Pikmin is a real-time strategy game with light puzzle solving and time management. While you directly play as Olimar, you use the Pikmin to take care of all important tasks such as fighting and carrying items and ship parts. You'll spend the bulk of your time after your very first playthrough replaying the main campaign and challenge modes, getting as much done as quickly and efficiently as possible. You'll be controlling how much of each colored Pikmin you have out at a time, mastering the maps by way of trial and error, and learning where to go first and how to divvy up your Pikmin. While you can't leave your Pikmin alone to their own devices all the time, it'll get to a point where you have 2 or more groups taking care of objectives at different parts of a level at once, mastering that strategic gameplay and time management. It's a lot of fun and offers a unique experience that isn't as common a find as platformers, RPGs, or action-adventure games. Of course, nothing is ever truly perfect. As much as I love Pikmin, there are some critiques I have reserved for it. The biggest problem I have with the game is the Pikmin's AI. When you press X, the Pikmin will organize into colored groups and stand still until you either run through them or use your whistle to gain control of them again. When they're in this inactive state, if the Pikmin are near anything that can be interacted with, they will go off on their own and take action. This can be especially frustrating in challenge mode, because one mechanic in the game is that you will receive more Pikmin from pellets if the color of the pellet matches the onion it goes into. So naturally, you want to color code every single pellet you come across in challenge mode to rack up the highest possible score. Imagine the frustration then when you go to separate your Pikmin into groups and the wrong colors start automatically going towards a pellet. Other grievances are the Pikmin's pathing system. Sometimes, Pikmin will carry an item through a path that they don't need to be taking because there's a different, much safer route that you've opened up. For some reason, the Pikmin will feel inclined to walk through a section of the map filled with enemies, asking to get killed in the process, leaving you to frantically call them back and ready yourself for an enemy confrontation that you were hoping to avoid. This isn't the end of the world if they're carrying pellets or corpses, which you can ditch if you don't have the time, but there was a point in the distant spring where my Pikmin carried a ship part into an area with 3 bull bears and a blowhog when they could have just went to the right and took the safer path to the ship, so I had no choice but to frantically fight all of these enemies while the sun was setting, praying that I can get this part to the dolphin in time. Also, the Pikmin are crackheads for nectar. If you see a patch of weeds or stones on your way to an objective, please make sure your Pikmin are far away from it, or else they will take it upon themselves to stop and whack away at the spot until every last weed or stone is destroyed, wasting time in the process. Yes, getting nectar is important if you need more flower Pikmin, but even flower Pikmin will go to these spots on their own, and my god is it frustrating to be fighting an enemy right next to a nectar spot, and watching some of your Pikmin wrestle with stones instead of the bull bear that's getting ready to eat them. Controls in Pikmin are also a bit slippery. Not enough to make the game miserable by any means, but there are some kinks to work out while you play. Aiming, for instance, is a bit of a struggle as I find it difficult to line up my Pikmin with precision aim onto a designated target. This is not as much of a problem with stationary objects, but it can be a point of contention when trying to get a good aim on constantly moving enemies. I despise the swooping snitch bug for this exact reason. This bag of shit looking ass bitch flies around, snatches your Pikmin up to throw them into the ground, and you're frantically trying to get your Pikmin to jump onto it to bring it to the floor and kill it, and half the time I'm missing all of my shots. All the while, I gotta sit there and pluck out 10 Pikmin from the ground after the fight, wasting precious time. Now that I think about it, the swooping snitch bug is probably the only enemy in this game I don't really have any love for. It looks like a crossbreed between a roach and a fruit fly, and it doesn't actually kill your Pikmin, making it nothing more than a flying distraction that gets in the way of progress. You can outrun it, as it won't follow you throughout the entire map, but good luck if you have any leaf Pikmin that struggle to keep up with you and get snatched up by the bitch anyways, or if one of your Pikmin decide to trip and fall, laying on the ground for 2 seconds like a character in a slasher film chase sequence, giving the snitch bug ample opportunity to plant it in the ground. Fuck this thing. Going back to the positives, I love this game's save system. Yes, the save system, let me explain. The only way to save your progress in Pikmin is at the end of each day, making for a really interesting approach to strategy. You might think this problematic. I can only save my progress after finishing my day? What if something goes wrong? What if I underprepared for a boss and go from 50 Pikmin to 3? Well, this is where the save system actually shines. I'm sure most of you have heard of the phrase save scumming, and for those who don't know, save scumming refers to a player making a mistake or in choice-based games, disliking the outcome of their decisions and going back to a previous save point to redo things to their liking. Some people do not like doing this, as they feel that it takes away from the authentic experience of rolling with the punches and maneuvering through the game with what's handed to you. In Pikmin, you may mistake the act of resetting the game to redo your current day as save scumming, but it really isn't. The fact that you can only save at the end of a day, right before the start of a new one, feels very intentional. There are also no traditional save files. Yes, there are 3 files you can select from at the menu, but when you're playing the game and are given the choice to save your progress, you can only overwrite the data on the file you're currently on. So it would make sense to make the most of your current day before officially moving on to the next, because once you decide to save the game, you physically cannot go back to a previous file. This is a strategy game, and especially on repeat playthroughs, it's important to maximize your actions in accordance with the clock. So, a very viable strategy is spending a day just walking around the area, scoping the scenery, and making a mental plan of what to do and in what order. Then, you reset the game, begin the day once more, and get to business. This wouldn't be possible if the game had autosave or some sort of checkpoint system. It's interesting to me that you're allowed to reset the game to redo progress only for one day, and you can't access previous days that you've already completed. It feels like the developers used the save system as an extra game mechanic, and it doesn't feel like cheating when you reset the game to start the current day over with a new plan. Pikmin is such a special, unique game. For a long time, the series felt incredibly niche and underappreciated, and with how long the gap between the second and third games were, a lot of fans were scared that the series was going to end up like Star Fox or F-Zero. It blew my mind to watch Pikmin blow up into mainstream levels of success, with Pikmin 4 being the best-selling Switch game of 2024 in Japan, and me going to my local grocery store and seeing Pikmin on the packaging for Lunchables. It's a beautiful series with adorable characters, drop-dead gorgeous environments, interesting and complex ecosystems and lore with one-of-a-kind gameplay. There are other games where you control multiple units to carry out tasks for you, but none of them are quite like Pikmin. It's a gaming experience that you can't quite get anywhere else, regardless if it's from Nintendo or another company. In a day and age where so much of what's coming out feels recycled and regurgitated from past eras, Pikmin stands as a testament for uniqueness, nerve, and talent. I'm already obsessed with Pikmin 2, and you can bet your top dollar that when I get 3 and 4, it's gonna be a ball. Nintendo is not a company that I am particularly fond of, but I have to give them props for giving me some of my favorite video game franchises of all time. Though many have tried, I will never find something that gets me quite like Pokemon. I'll never find something that feels quite like The Legend of Zelda, and I'll never experience another game that radiates the same energy as Pikmin.